Legislative deliberative process has to have a supermajority in the House and the Senate, and 38 states have to ratify. This is done in a respectful, lawful manner, unlike what you're doing in San Francisco.
Well,
all right, John, let me move other members of the panel. We have 4 members of the panel. I want to get everyone in. John, what do you say to those who say, what about Chad and his love of his life being together? Isn't that better than, say, the heterosexual marriage where one of the partners cheats? Who is contributing more to the moral decay of the society? The adulterous husband with the female wife, or the loving gay couple who don't do that?
yeah, well, you're asking me to do something I really can't do, and that is make a judgment on which sin is better or worse than the other.
Yet you're here condemning homosexuality as sin, in your support of banning same-sex marriage. Contradict yourself within your own worldview much? Not only contradicting both yourself and this religion, but using that argument to evade Larry's question about morality. How is passing judgment on cheating behavior worse than your agreement that passing the judgment is sin, while you're passing judgment? And why do you agree with the Bible as it claims sin exists? As for ranking sins, you refuse to, but you are going to seek legislation against gay marriage, which has nothing to do with any of those sins? How is that any better, and why do you want to? What about free will?
We've suffered in this country from adultery, divorce, the abuse of children, pedophilia, you name it. I'm not going to classify those in rank. They're sins, and they destroy the family.
And homosexuality is
and homosexuality,
a sin to you.
yeah.
Therefore, it's a choice.
It's a choice you make. It's a sinful choice.
Did you make a choice to be heterosexual?
I don't think I had to make a choice.
I could argue that sexuality is not a choice, but none of you Christians would ever listen to that. So I'll ask instead, why does that choice, as you insist, bother you? Because it's a sin? How is that a valid reason, and doesn't that make homosexuality, along with those other sins you refuse to rank, God's problem and responsibility to judge and not yours?
Choice to be heterosexual, I think that's a natural thing.
Wait a minute. In other words, one is a choice and one is not.
Yeah.
So he was unlucky and you're lucky.
Because you're not talking about, because it's natural to be heterosexual. That's
what do you mean by natural?
Well, I mean, that's the way God made us. That's the normal.
But if he doesn't feel that way, what is he then? He's not.
How does the argument, God made us that way, make it natural? And wouldn't that mean God made us all that way? Where would homosexuality come from for people to choose it if God made us all straight? Why do you prefer heterosexuality? Also, your words here suggest your only objection to homosexuality is because the Bible says it's evil. You do accuse homosexuality of home wreckage, but you didn't back that up. So how actually is homosexuality a problem in this world?
A sinner wasn't his decision.
Yeah, I think it was his decision.
I would love, absolutely love for the pastor to point out for me when in my life I made that decision, because I have to tell you, it caused a lot of pain in my family. It caused a lot of pain to me. It's a very, very tough thing that I had to go through. I don't remember making that decision. If I did, maybe you can point it out, but that wasn't the case for me.
It's
who I am. You also said that it was in the fabric of the human being to understand that marriage was between a man and a woman, and that's what family was. It must not be, because it's not in the fabric of who I am. It's not the way I see it. I think families come in all shapes, sizes, and colors.
Well, let me respond this way, Chad, and say it had to be in the fabric of humanity, or you wouldn't be here.
What had to be in humanity's fabric? Why do you want religion to be in humanity's fabric, as you Christians all claim it is? Why do you want sin to be in our fabric, which you believe God will judge? Being that sin is fabrication, doesn't that mean birth itself should be illegal? I didn't choose to be born, did you? What choice does anybody have with birth?
Of society is family. Everybody knows that. That's in the heart. That's how it works. You're coming along with others who are homosexual in their perspective, and overturning what is natural to everyone.
The thing is, what negativity and psychologically damaging antisocial shit a book says about people should never be prioritized over anybody, especially family. John is putting God over people, just because it's God. Even if homosexuality is societally detrimental, that means God is the actual problem and culprit because God didn't rectify the fucking problem. God has people oppress the people instead, which also makes his loyal worshippers culprits because they carry the divine order out. No, only natural to you, and that's your only issue with homosexuality, the Bible. Are we all born Christian? No? So how can you figure heterosexuality is our only possible nature?
Maybe also be asking to the privilege of something you have preached for years. Marriage is a healthy, wonderful thing, and they're saying, let us in. Why would you deny it to them?
Let me respond to Chad, too, just on a personal basis, Chad, by saying, I don't think at some point you said, okay, I'm going to be a homosexual. I got two alternatives, I'm going to go be a homosexual. But I do think whatever sin patterns show up in our lives, and they may be different for us, we can choose to continue down those paths of sin, whether it's adultery or whatever it is, or we can say, look, this is sin, and I need to deal with this in my heart. If this is the way I'm being led, it's not right.
I say what's actually needed here is a definition of, quote, sin. Otherwise, the discussion is void because the mutual understanding of that term is missing.
It doesn't honor God. It's not according to his word. It's not going to ultimately bring blessing on my life.
Blessing means to favor, so how can God favor anybody if everybody is a sinner? Why do you want to honor and follow his word, and why does God deserve obedience and worship?
I make the choice at that point. I can't make a choice to be a sinner, okay? I am. We all are. But once you start down the path of sin, if you recognize that it is that, then you look to the Lord for the remedy to that.
And
Would we be of sin if God either didn't create life or want obedience, as he set Adam and Eve up to disobey him, giving him the excuse to bring that sin into this world? How is Jesus Christ's sacrifice a valid remedy for sin? Wouldn't that mean we're not sinners anymore and we're all Christ-like? Not that I want to be Christ-like.
Respect you beyond anything for your belief on that. I really do. And let me tell you where the sin was in my life as I see it. When I was in high school and kids were getting picked on, and I was one of those kids picking on other kids, the ones that couldn't help but show that they were gay, the effeminate boys, and I picked on them, and I beat them up. That was a sin for me. The sin for me was hiding who I was. When it was dark inside my life and I was hiding who I was and trying to be something else, that was the sin for me. I believe that it's God.
Becoming almost cliche that the cultural conservatives throw out polygamy and all these other red herrings. Let's get back to the core issue. It's okay from your perspective to discriminate against two loving people that want to enter in a monogamous
Then possibly you're
relationship.
discriminating against people who believe in polygamy.
Yeah.
Maybe people who
Obey. Why not let them do that?
Well, they may want a family, but they can't have one.
No, but what? Yes, they can. They can adopt.
Well, they can't have one in the way that God designed it. They can't have one. I mean,
But
You claim sin is bad, but here you are, denying gay couples the right to adopt, because God. So, orphans should have no parents at all, if not hetero parents? Why do you want everybody in this world to be in the way God designed it? And how is God's design good? How can anybody be a sinner if God designed this world? Evil can't exist. You are opposed to certain things in this world, so where is God's design in that? Would you be opposed to anything if God's way is always good? You're not making any sense here.
can borrow somebody else's children.
The state and God are not the same. The state. What does the state care?
Well, I think because the state has a responsibility to uphold the right. Even the Bible says that the government exists to protect the
That's
people
the
from
Bible
what is
alone.
evil. Well, I'm just saying,
Okay.
what does the state do? It protects us, right? It protects us from what destroys.
They want a family. They want to be a gay couple. They want what you have. You have with your wife. They're asking for that. They want to promise fidelity. They want to promise to love, honor, and obey. Why not let them do that?
Well, they may want a family, but they can't have one.
No, but what? Yes, they can. They can adopt.
Well, they can't have one in the way that God designed it. They can't have one. I mean,
But
they
I'm
can
talking about
borrow
the state
somebody
now.
else's
No,
children.
The state and God and
Borrow somebody else's children? You are a sick motherfucker. In all of the 10 years of dealing with the right-wing sociopaths, I've never heard anything like that. Damn it, that's psychotic. Borrowing somebody else's children, what the fuck is that?
Not the same. The state. What does the state care?
Well, I think because the state has a responsibility to uphold the right. Even the Bible says that the government exists to protect the
That's
people
the Bible,
from what
though.
is evil. Well, I'm just saying,
Okay.
what does the state do? It protects us, right?
What does the state have to do with the Bible? How is the Bible protecting people if the Bible it fucking self is what's condemning certain people? If anybody needs protection, the homosexual world needs it from sociopaths like you, who speak on behalf of that fucking book that condemns them, and then imposes the Bible onto the state.
Protects us from what destroys. We enter into the abortion debate. The state makes laws about abortion. Why? Because it wants to protect what is valuable to our society, and that is the reproduction process. This goes upstream in some sense, Larry.
Would abortion be a thing if God designed reproduction better? What does abortion even have to do with gay marriage?
Past the point of conception to a point where there can't even be
But
conception.
don't you feel compassion for the fact that Chad wants only one thing? Same thing you have.
You know,
What's wrong with that?
because it's
not
a
natural,
wrong
remember?
relationship. It's a
Go ahead.
sinful
Remember?
relationship. It's an unnatural relationship. It's a relationship that obviously common sense tells you
He's borrowing
can't
children.
produce children and care for children in the way.
You mean the same kind of relationship you delusionally believe you have with God? One that calls for oppression and fascism? How is that constructive and civil? Are gays and lesbians trying to oppress other people because they're different? Because a book says they're, quote, evil?
And that's the only reason for
Humanity's, well,
marriage, then, is
there's more to
reproduction.
say than that. You got to look beyond them. You got to look to the future. You have to look to the kids,
Oh, not yet.
the children. Law establishes values. Values are taught to children. They determine how children think in the future.
I
Chad,
have 4 friends married.
Abortion. Why? Because it wants to protect what is valuable to our society, and that is the reproduction process. This goes upstream in some sense, Larry, past the point of conception to a point where there can't even be
but
conception.
don't you feel compassion for the fact that Chad wants only one thing? Same thing you have.
You know,
What's wrong with that?
because it's a wrong relationship. It's a sinful relationship. It's an unnatural relationship. It's a relationship that obviously common sense tells you can't produce children and care
How is denial of adoption to gays because that's not divine? Common sense, John.
for children in the way that
And that's the only reason for
humanity's, well,
marriage, then, is
there's more to
reproduction.
say than that. You got to look beyond them. You got to look to the future. You have to look to the kids, the children. Law establishes values.
So, you want a godly future of miserable orphans and oppressed minorities, while God is the one responsible for this world being so shitty, if this religion is the truth. Maybe God is the actual sinner and evil is the actual goodness.